whether we like it or not, data centers are here. It's clear that they're important to technology and to future economic development in the state. It's also clear that residents have concerns about how these new developments impact their communities and their pocketbooks. Republicans in the Assembly and the Senate are introducing legislation to protect Wisconsin residents. The bill will have a public hearing this week. Some key provisions of the bill requires the Public Service Commission to ensure that there are protections for ratepayers to prevent data centers' operations from passing their electricity costs on to consumers. Further, the bill, if data center relies on renewable energy, that power should be generated on site. By keeping it on site, it will reduce costs and protect farmland. The bill also ensures water usage is minimized by requiring closed-loop systems. It will also provide transparency by requiring reporting on annual water usage. There are also safeguards in the bill for land use, the reclamation and restoration requirements, similar to what you see in Wisconsin law for aggregate. With that, I'll pass it off to Senator Jaegler for further remarks.
Thank you, Representative Bourne. I'm State Senator John Jaegler. Welcome to the 13th Senate District. This has been a topic that has certainly approached our office with what's going on in Beaver Dam and the data center here. And some of the questions that still the consumers, the taxpayers, and the residents still have. And a lot of the things that are in this bill concerning the project here in Beaver Dam have already been done. The closed water loop system, that was a corporate decision that Meta already made. So why are we here today? Well, there's still some concerns, and as Representative Bourne told me, you know, it's kind of like a guy who wears a belt and suspenders. You want to make sure you have protections just in case. A lot of the protections are already in place when it comes to rate hikes with the Public Service Commission controlling that. Certainly some DNR issues are certainly already part of current law, but we just want to make sure that this is tightened up. There's no guide rails coming up. We've heard lots of calls from consumers saying, look, this is going to raise our property tax or raise our electric rates. We want to make sure that those rates that go, or the costs that go to providing energy to the data centers are indeed paid for by the providers. And the other part that was interesting too was, you know, as these come up, these proposals, there's a lot of, this is a brand new technology, obviously, and a lot of the data centers are driven on a need for AI. And some folks were like, well, what happens if, you know, a different company provides a better AI and renders this useless? What if they start a project and it's not being done? Having the fact that there's a bond being put in place so the land goes back to its original state, if the community wants it. Perhaps there's roads that have been put in place that you know, were part of our project that were pulled away, that the community is made whole back to the way it originally was. So it's just a protection model, and again, when it comes to the facility here that's going up in Beaver Dam, a lot of the concerns that are in the bill are already part of that current project, but it's the belt and suspenders approach. We just want to make sure that ratepayers are protected. With that, I'll turn it over to Representative Tyler August.
Thank you, Senator. I want to thank Representative Bourne and Senator Jaegler for hosting us in Beaver Dam today. And they both covered the issue extremely well. I think that both Assembly and Senate Republicans have identified that the fact that data centers are coming whether we like it or not. This is just what's happening as technology continues to advance, and AI, whether we like it or not, they're coming. And so to have these safeguards put in place to protect our communities, to protect ratepayers, it's a super responsible bill, and it's also a pretty aggressive bill to make sure that these data centers, when they come in, that they don't change the fabric of Wisconsin. So with that, we'd be happy to take any questions that anybody would have.
Can you explain just kind of basically what a data center is and what does it do? I mean, to a basic home, someone watching at home.
Yeah, sure. So data centers are largely, think of them as kind of server farms where these large technology companies and some small technology companies have these systems in place, things like being able to store your photos on the cloud or use your emails or any of your smartphone or tablet. A lot of that data is contained in these data centers. So they do use a lot of energy, but that's why it's so important that we make sure that ratepayers aren't subsidizing, residential ratepayers are not subsidizing the costs of the energy put into those centers. But again, like it or not, they're coming. They've become a huge part of everybody's everyday life, whether they realize it or not. Everybody's smartphone ties to a data center somewhere through the internet, and we're here to just make sure that those centers, when built, are done responsibly and that they don't change the fabric of our communities.
And I would add, I mean, a lot of these decisions are being done on the local level. The Beaver Dam, facility was the Beaver Dam Alderman, City Hall. That came from our job as state legislators, as we still are getting calls, is to make sure there's protections in place. So while this is very much a local decision, we're not trying to take away from that. We're just trying to put guide rails in place to make sure the ratepayers are protected.
I guess, what was kind of the thought process behind having, if renewable energy is gonna power a data center, it has to be on site? I guess, like, isn't it gonna be connected to the wider grid anyway, so like, there's still gonna be renewables at, other parts of the grid?
I think, I'm sure Representative Bourne has a thought on this too, but I mean, from putting it on site, I know some of the concerns that we're taking up is this is taking some valuable agricultural land. We wanted to make sure that if it's tied to this project, that it's on the site, that it's not taking up any more of our farmland around the communities.
That's certainly part of the answer, because one of the complaints that we are hearing in our office is about how much land these are taking for their use, but also it's the cost. As you're going further out on renewable energy sites, and then you're having to run more transmission lines and things, and the cost that brings into it. So we're trying to make it more cost effective, and as well as keep these to a proper scale as far as the size of the land that's being used, and continue to protect our great farmland here in Wisconsin. Other questions?
Can you speak to how the bill got developed? Was this something that started after calls from constituents? Has this been in the works for a while now?
Yeah, like most legislation does in the state legislature, you start to identify issues as you start to hear from constituents. And so a number of legislators, not just the Senator I and Beaver Dam when this is happening, but other data centers, and then also throughout the state, as people are looking at the media coverage of these data centers coming to Wisconsin, all of us were hearing from our constituents, hey, what about this? What does this mean for water? What does this mean for electricity? For ratepayers were the two key ones. And so we start discussions then amongst ourselves in the legislature and craft a bill working to address those issues.
What do you foresee the end game with this bill? Is there bipartisan support that you think is going to get through and be signed into law?
We're certainly hopeful there'll be bipartisan support. We'll certainly learn more this week as there's a public hearing on the bill. And certainly the public hearing is an important part of the process. We might learn more than what we've learned from our constituents so far, and make some tweaks to the bill as it works through the process. That's a pretty common part of the how a bill works through the system.
I guess, this is a Republican bill, right? There was a Democratic bill kind of aimed at putting regulations on data centers as well. I guess, like, what are you guys hearing from across the aisle? Like, that one was, I think Hatter Sinekin was pushing that one.
Yeah, if anyone else has anything to add, but I just know, I can't speak to the entirety of a Dem bill. I don't know everything about their bill, but I know one key thing that would be different is your first question was about the renewable energy. Their bill actually required large amounts of renewable energy, which would have required a lot more land, which would have greatly increased the size of these facilities, and I think that would be a major difference in the bills and something we'd be concerned about. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add on that.
No, I think that's exactly right.
That's one of the key differences, and I think a major concern for a lot of folks in Wisconsin.
And then I guess, your bill also addresses kind of the water use issue, which is one of the big hangups that some of the environmental groups have. I guess the other thing that like environmental groups have kind of said about data centers is they're concerned that it's going to lead to more fossil fuels, being used, more natural gas power plants, which is going to release CO2 into the atmosphere, I guess. I guess, do you guys have any concern about like, new gas plants that are getting built by like We Energies or other utilities to meet the need, or Alliant, doubling down on natural gas?
Yeah, our bill doesn't mandate a particular type of use, and I don't think that would be something that you would see us being interested in. And I think that the systems can figure out through the process of the Public Service Commission the right way to